Friends, my channel name is Indian Epic History. Search this channel name on YouTube, then go to playlist option for all videos like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puran. Otherwise, click the channel name or picture below the video, then go to the playlist. This is Buri Critical Valmiki Ramayana book, Ayodhya Kand, chapter 38. The king was lying down, afflicted by grief. On seeing this, Kaushalya, who was also grief stricken because of her son, addressed the Lord of the earth, having released her poison on Raghava, tiger among men, Kaikeyi will roam around like a frog-tongued female serpent that has cast off its skin. The immensely fortunate one has satisfied her wish of vanishing Rama. Self controlled, she will now terrify me like a wicked snake in a house. It would have been better had a boon been granted of my own dwelling in the house as a serpent who roams around in the city. Like a beggar looking for alms, as she desired, Kaikeyi has brought Rama down for his position. She is like a person who offers oblations into the fire on an auspicious occasion, but offers the indicates shares to Rakshasas instead. The brave one possesses the stride of a king of elephants. He is a mighty armed archer. He must certainly have entered the forest with his wife and with Lakshmana. Because of Kaikeyi's instruction and yours, in the forest he will face hardships that he has not faced before. When he finishes his dwelling in the forest, what state will he be in? Devoid of riches, those young ones have been exiled and will be deprived of the fruits their ages warrant. Miserable, how will they live there, surviving on fruits and roots? When will that auspicious time when I will see Raghava with his wife and brother, and when my sorrows will be destroyed arrive? When will Ayodhya hear that the brave ones have returned? When will the city be illustrious with standards and garlands full of happy people? When will we see those two tigers among men return from the forest? When will the city be happy and delighted like the ocean at the time of the full moon? When will the brave and mighty armed one enter the city of Ayodhya, placing Sita at the front of the chariot like a bull behaving towards a cow? When will my son, scorcher of enemies, enter the proceed along the royal road with thousands and people showering them with parched grain? When will they, with cheerful minds, happily circumambulate the city, offerings, fruits to maidens and brahmanas? When will the one who knows about Dharma, as radiant as an immortal, return with mature intelligence and age and nourish me for 3 years? O brave one, it is certain that I must have committed a cruel act earlier. When calves wishes to suck at milk, I must have sliced off the teats of mother cows. I am like a cow with a calf, rendered calfless by a lion. O tiger among men, I am like a cow with a tender calf, forcibly rendered calfless by Kaikeyi. He is He is ornamented with all the qualities and is accomplished in all the sacred texts. I only have one son. Without the son, I do not desire to remain alive. I cannot discard any capacity to remain alive. I am unable to see my beloved son, who is mighty armed and immensely strong. My body is being scorched by grief from the heat of a fire that has arisen. It is as if the illustrious sun is scorching this earth with the radiance of its blazing rays during the summer. Next, chapter 39. Kaushalya, supreme among women, lamented in this way. Established in Dharma, Sumitra addressed her in words that were full of Dharma. O noble one, your son is supreme among men and possesses all the virtuous qualities. Why are you lamenting? Why are you weeping piteously? O noble one, your immensely strong son has forsaken the kingdom and has left. The great soul one has performed a virtuous act and has made his father's words come true. If one acts properly and virtuously, one obtains eternal fruits even after that. Rama has been established in the best of Dharma and one should never sorrow over him. The unblemished Lakshmana follows excellent conduct and is devoted to him. His compassion towards all creatures will bring benefit to the great soul one, whether he is used to happiness and will know misery during her radiance in the forest. However, she has followed your son who has dharma in his soul. The radiance of the Lord's deeds will flutter like a flag in the world. He possesses self control and the vow of truth. After this, what can your son not obtain? Knowing about Rama's evident purity and supreme greatness, the sun will not be able to scorch his body with its rays. Auspicious breezes, breezes appropriate for all seasons, will be released from the groups. Whether it is hot or cold, these cheerful winds will serve Raghava. When he lies down in the night to sleep, the cool beams of the moon will touch him and gladden him like a father's embrace. On seeing that he had slain the Indra among Danavas, Timidvaja's son, in the battle, the greatly energetic Brahmana gave him divine weapons. O bull among men will obtain prosperity together with Vedahi, who come out of the earth. With these three, Rama will be consecrated as king. On seeing him leave this place, people shed tears of sorrow. You will soon see tears of joy emerged from their eyes. On seeing the well-wishers honor your son, you will soon release tears of joy like an array of clouds during the monsoon. Your son, the grantor of boons, will quickly return to Ayodhya. He will knead your feet with his thick but gentle hands. Hearing these words of Lakshmana's mother, Rama's mother, the wife of the king, instantly made all sorrow disappear from her body, like an autumn cloud vanishes with only a little bit of water. Next, chapter 40. There were men who were devoted to the great soul Rama, for whom truth was his valor. When he left to live in the forest, they followed him. The king and his army returned. However, the groups of well-wishers did not return and followed Rama's chariot. He possessed all the qualities. Therefore, when he lived in Ayodhya, he was loved by those immensely illustrious men as if he was the full moon. Despite being en- entreated to the country, Kukutsa rendered his father's plague true and looked to the forest. They glanced at him affectionately as if they were drinking him in with their eyes. Affectionately, Rama addressed those objects as if they were his own offspring. O residents of Ayodhya, you have shown me affection and great respect for the sake of bringing me pleasure. Display this particularly towards Bharata. His character is fortunate and He extends Kaikeyi's delight. He will do whatever is appropriate to benefit and pleasure. He may be young in age, but he is aged in wisdom. He is mild, but has the qualities of valor. He is worthy to be your Lord and will dispel your fears. He possesses the qualities of being a king and has been identified as the heir apparent. In addition, we must abide my virtue and follow the commands of our master. As I leave for the forest, ensure that the great king does not suffer. If you wish to bring me pleasure, this is what you should do. The more Rama abided by the principles of Dharma, the more the ordinary people desired him as their lord. They were distressed, overflowing with tears. The people who resided in the city were tied to Rama because of his qualities and to Saumitri, means Lakshman. They were Brahmanas who were aged in three ways: learning, age, and energy. Their heads trembled because of their age. From a distance they cried out, O swift steeds that are bearing Rama, O fast horses born in noble lineages, if you desire the welfare of your Lord, return and do not proceed to the destination. Your Lord deserves to be brought back to the city. He does not deserve to be taken to the forest. The aged Brahmanas suffered and lamented in this way. On seeing that they were lamenting, Rama quickly descended from his chariot. With Sita and Lakshmana, Rama headed for the forest, walking on foot and keeping peace with them. Rama's character was affectionate, and because of compassion, he was incapable of looking at the Brahmanas who were on foot. Therefore, he abandoned the chariot. On seeing that Rama was still proceeding, the Brahmanas were scared in their minds. Suffering greatly, they addressed Rama in these words: Just as you follow Brahmanas, all the Brahmanas are following you. These Brahmanas are following you, carrying their sacred fires on their shoulders. Behold our white umbrellas from Vajpayee sacrifices held aloft. They are following at the rear like swans at the end of the monsoon. You do not have an umbrella and are lamented by the race. We will offer you shade from umbrellas obtained at Vajpayee sacrifices. Our intelligence has always followed the mantras of the Vedas. O child, for your sake, we are now following you as you leave for the forest. The Vedas are our supreme treasure and they are stored in our hearts. Our wives will be protected by their good characters and will reside in our homes. There is no need to think again about our course of action. We have taken the excellent decision of going with you. Since you are considering Dharma, who is capable of not adhering to Dharma? Our grey hair is like the white feathers on swans. We wish that you should return. Because our heads touch the ground, they are covered with dust from the earth. O child, the Brahmanas who have come here have commenced many sacrifices, and their completion is conditional on your return. Both inanimate objects and animate creatures are devoted to you. They desire your affection. You should show them your affection. These trees seem to be weeping, raised by the force of the wind. Since they are unable to follow you, they are forcibly tugging at their roots. The birds are also beseeching you. They are perched in one spot on the trees, not trying to gather food. You are compassionate towards all creatures. In this fashion, the Brahmanas lamented, waiting this return. At this time, the river Tamasha was seen as if it was also restraining Raghava. Next chapter 41, Raghava reached the beautiful banks of the Tamasha, he looked towards Sita and Saumitri and spoke these words, O Saumitri, today is the first night of our residing in the forest, O fortunate one. You should not be anxious about dwelling in the forest. Behold, in every direction the empty forest seemed to be crying, seeing shelter, the animals and birds are returning to their own abodes. The city of Ayodhya, my father's capital, and all the women and men there will no doubt grieve about our departure. Bharata has dharma in his soul. He will no doubt comfort my father and mother with words that are full of dharma, artha, and kama. O Lakshmana, repeatedly thinking about the fact that Bharata does not cause injury, I am not sorrowing over my father and mother. For Tiger Woman, you have done your duty by following me. Otherwise, for with his protection, I would have had to search for help. O Saumitri, tonight I will only subsist on water. Through there are many kinds of forest fare. This is what appeals to me. Having addressed Saumitri in this way, Raghava spoke to Sumantra, O amiable one, tend attentively to the horses. With the sun having set, Sumantra tethered the horses close by the gave them sufficient grass. On seeing that the evening was auspicious and that night had presented itself with Saumitri, the Suta prepared a bed for Rama to lie down on. On the banks of the Tamasha, a bed was prepared with the leaves of trees. With Saumitri's help, Lakshmana's help, Rama and his wife entered that place. On seeing that his brother was asleep with his wife, Lakshmana told the Sutta about Rama's manifold qualities. Saumitri remained awake the entire night on the banks of the Tamasha, recounting Rama's qualities to the Sutta. The sun arose. Not very far from the banks of the Tamasha, there were many herds of cows. With the ordinary people, Rama had spent the night there. Having awakened, the immensely energetic Rama saw those ordinary people and spoke to his brother. Lakshmana, who possessed auspicious signs, or Saumitri, look, ignoring their homes, these people are looking towards us, or Lakshmana, see, they are sleeping near and roots of trees. These citizens are making efforts to make us return. They will give up their lives but will not give up their determination. In the limited time that we have while they are still asleep, let us ascend the chariot and leave along a path that is devoid of fear. These radiants from the capital city of the Ishwakus, who are devoted to me, must not sleep near the roots of trees again. Because of two princes, these citizens have brought this suffer on themselves and must be freed from it. The misery is for us, and the residents of the city must not be made to suffer. Rama was stationed like Dharma himself, and Lakshmana told him, O immensely wise one, the idea appeals to me. Ascend the chariot quickly. The charioteer swiftly yoked the excellent horses to the chariot. He joined his hands in salutation and told Rama that the yoking had been done. To confuse the citizens, Rama addressed the Sutta in these words, O charioteer, mount the chariot and drive it towards the north. After swiftly driving for some time, bring the chariot back. Do this carefully so that the citizens do not know where I am. Hearing Rama's word, the charioteer drove the chariot around in the circle. Retracting the steps, he informed Rama that the chariot had returned. With all the accompanying objects, Raghava ascended the chariot. They quickly crossed the river Tamasha, which was full of whirlpools. The mighty armed and prosperous one reached a large and auspicious road that was free from all obstructions and had no reason to scare even those who were afraid. When night was over and it was morning, the citizens saw that Raghava wasn't there. Devoid of their senses and grief stricken, they couldn't move, their eyes overflowing with tears of grief. They cast their eyes here and there. However, they couldn't see Rama and were miserable. For some time they followed the path, but unable to discern the tracks. They were filled with great sorrow. The chariot's tracks had vanished. Those spirited ones returned, exclaiming, "What will we do? We have been struck by destiny." Exhausted, senseless, and full of distress, all of them returned to the city of Ayodhya along the path they had followed while coming there. Next chapter 42. The residents of the city gave up their attempt to follow Rama. They were dispirited and were ready to give up their lives. They reached their own respective houses and were surrounded by their sons and wives. All of them wept and their faces were covered with tears. No one was happy, no one was delighted, no trader displayed his wares, no merchandise gathered, no one who was responsible for a house cooked. No one was delighted at great riches once lost having been regained. No mother was joyous that the first son had been born. When the husbands returned home, there was weeping in every house, afflicted by grief like striking elephants with goads. They struck them with words. What work do they have at home? What will they do with wives and riches? If they cannot see Raghava, what happiness will they obtain from sons? There is only one virtuous man in the world, Lakshmana. With Sita, he has followed Kukutsha Rama so as to serve him. The rivers of lotus ponds must have entered good merits with their deeds. Since Kukutsa will enter their auspicious waters and bathe there, the forests with charming groves, lands with great rivers, and picked mountains with beautify themselves for Kukutsa. Whenever Rama goes to a grove or a mountain like a beloved guest who was arrived, it cannot but worship him. There are colorful blossoming trees and bear many kinds of flowers. The mountains will speak of Rama's arrival, and the best of flowers and fruits will be shown to him even it is not the right season. Reserved colorful waterfalls will be displayed to him. On the summits of mountains, trees will cause delight to Raghava. Where Rama is, there is no fear, there is no defeat there. Dasharatha's son is brave and mighty armed. Raghava is in front of us, he has not gone a long distance away. The shadow of the feet of such a great souled Lord constitutes happiness. He is the protector of the pupil, he is the supreme destination. We will tend to Sita while you serve Raghava, thus afflicted by grief. The women of the city told their husbands, "In the forest, Raghava will ensure yoga and Shema for us. Sita will ensure yoga and Shema for the women folk, who will be happy in this place populated by anxious people, unless senseless who will wish to dwell in such an unpleasant place. If this kingdom belongs to Kaikeyi, it will be full of adharma and we will be without a protector. There is no purpose to remaining alive. What is the point of sons? What is the point of riches? Who else will Kaikeyi, the defiler of the lineage, cast aside for the sake of riches? Her husband and son have abandoned her We will not reside as servants in Kaikeyi's kingdom. We swear on our living sons that we will not do this as long as we are alive. Without any pity, she has banished the son of the king. She is wicked in conduct and has followed adharma, having obtained it in this way. Who can live happily? With Rama having been exiled, the Lord of the earth will not remain alive. It is evident that after Dasharatha is dead, only lamentations will remain. Your merits have been exhausted and you face a great catastrophe. Stir up some poison and drink it, either follow Raghava or follow the path of the ignorant. It is by restoring to decay that Rama, his wife, and Lakshmana have been banished. We have been handed over to Bharata like animals to an executioner in the city. The women who lived in the city lamented in this fashion. They wept, tormented by grief, as if they faced the fear of death. The women were afflicted on account of Rama, as if their sons or brothers had been exiled. Grief stricken, they lamented and senseless wept. For them, he was superior to their own sons. Next, chapter 43. Remembering his father's command, when night descended, Rama, tiger among men, travelled a great distance away. He travelled in this way throughout that auspicious night. He travelled beyond the boundaries of the kingdom and worshipped the morning Sandhya. He proceeded swiftly on those excellent horses which were like arrows and passed by villages. He saw that their boundaries had flowering groves. He heard the words of the men who lived in those villages. Shame on King Dasharatha, who succumbed to desire. Alas, the wicked and cruel Kaikeyi has now been bound down by sin, having fiercely transgressed norms. She has engaged in the fierce act. She has exiled such a son and prince who is devoted to dharma. With her senses clouded by rage, she has dispatched the immensely wise one to radiance in the forest. He heard such words from the men who dwelled in those villages. The brave lord of Koshala went beyond the boundaries of Koshala. There was a river named Vedashruti there. The bearer of auspicious waters, having travelled towards the north, he next advanced towards the direction occupied by Agastya. After travelling for a long period of time, he reached the river Gautami with cool waters. Its banks were ornamented with large numbers of cattle, and it was headed towards the ocean. With those swift horses, Raghava crossed the Gautami. He also crossed the river Syandika, responding with the calls of peacocks and swans. In ancient times, this land had been given to the Ishvakus by King Manu. Ramashwed Vedehi, the boundaries of this prosperous kingdom. The handsome bull among men then glanced towards the charioteer and addressed him in a voice that was like that of a swan in love. When will I again return to the flowering forest on the banks of the Sarayu? When will I unite with my mother and my father and roam around on herds? I do not excessively crave for hunting in the forest along the banks of the Sarayu. I love that place unmatched in the world and revered by Rajrishis. The descendant of the Ishwaku lineage addressed the Sutta in these sweet words and spoke other desired words that were full of meaning. He continued to advance. Next, chapter 44. Lakshmana, mighty armed elder brother, Lakshmana's mighty armed elder brother crossed the beautiful and extensive land of Kochala and reached Sringyaverapura. There, Raghava saw the auspicious Ganga of the three flows, with divine and auspicious waters that were free of moss, populated by sacred rishis. There were the sounds of swans and cranes, the crying of Chakravaka birds, dolphins, crocodiles, and serpents resided there. The Maratha saw waves and eddies and told the Sutta Sumantra, "Let us reside there here today." There is an extremely large Inguda tree not far from this river with many flowers and branches. O charioteer, we will reside here. Lakshmana and Sumantra said that they agreed with what Raghava had said and tied the horses to the Inguda tree. Rama, the descendant of the Ishvaku lineage, approached that beautiful tree with his wife, and with Lakshmana he descended from the chariot. Sumantra also descended and released the supreme horses. He presented himself before Rama at the foot of the tree and joined his hands in salutation. There was a king named Guha. He was Rama's friend, and Rama loved him like his own self. He was born as a powerful Nishada and was famous as an architect. He heard that Rama, Tiger Woman, had arrived in his dominion. Therefore, surrounded by elders, advisors, and kin, he arrived there from a distance. Rama saw that the king of the Nishada was arriving with Saumitri, means with Lakshman. He went forward to receive Guha. Guha was distressed. He emerged Raghava and said, "O Rama, for you this place is just like Ayodhya. What can I do for you?" He brought the best quality of rice and other objects. He swiftly offered Argha and spoke these words, "O mighty armed one, welcome. The entire earth is yours. All of us are your servants, and you are our Lord. Rule our kingdom." Vaksha, Bhoja, Peya, and Leha have been presented. There are the best of beds and fodder for the horses. When Guha spoke in this way, Raghava replied to him, "We are delighted, and you have honored us in every possible way. To display your affection, you have arrived here on foot." He engulfed him in his thick and auspicious arms and added these words, "O Guha, it is good fortune that I see that you and your relatives are healthy, in everything well with your kingdom, friends, and riches. I know everything about your affection, which is why you have arranged at all. However, I should not accept them. Note that I am certain to abide by the dharma of an ascetic who lives in the forest. I will wear kusha grass, rag, and bark. I will eat fruits and roots. I do not wish for anything other than fodder for the horses. If you do only this much, I will be greatly honored. These horses are extremely well trained and are loved by my father, King Dasharatha. I will be honored if this is done." Guha instructed the men present, "Let food and water be given to the horse, give it quickly." He only wore an upper garments made of bark. He worshipped the western Sandhya. For food he only had water that Lakshmana had brought himself. As he lay down on the ground with his wife, Lakshmana washed his feet and stood near a tree there. Guha conversed with the Sutta and Lakshmana without being constructed. The archer remained awake and guarded Rama. The intelligent, illustrious, and great souled son of Dasharatha wept in this way. He had never faced unhappiness and deserved happiness. The lion night passed in this way. Next chapter 45, Lakshmana was tormented on account of his brother. He remained awake. Also grief stricken Guha humbly addressed Raghava in these words: O father, this comfortable bed has been constructed for you, O prince. Cheerfully lie down and relax on it. All these people are used to hardship, you are used to ease. For the sake of protecting Kukutsha, we will remain awake during the night. There is nothing on earth that is as dear to me as Rama. I am telling you this truthfully. If this is not true, you can curse me. Through his valor, I hope to attain extremely great fame in this world. I will not only obtain Artha, but will also obtain great dharma. My beloved friend Rama is lying down with Sita with all my kin. I will protect him with the bow in my hand. Though I always roam around in the forest, there is nothing that is unknown to me. We are capable of repulsing a great army that consists of the four kinds of forces. At this, Lakshmana replied, O unblemished one, you look towards Dharma and protected by you. All of us have nothing to fear here. When Dasharatha's son is lying down on the ground with Sita, as long as I am alive, how is it possible for me to lie down happily? All the gods and asuras are incapable of standing before him in a battle. Look at him sleeping happily on the grass with Sita. Through mantras, austerities, and many other kinds of efforts, Dasharatha obtained his son with such qualities with him, exiled the king with not live for long time. It is certain that the earth will soon become a widow. Having wept extremely loudly, the woman must be exhausted. O son, I think the sounds must have caged in the king's abode. I am not certain that Kaushalya, the king of my mother, will survive the night. However, looking towards Satrughna, my mother may remain alive, but it will be misery if Kaushalya, the mother of a brave son, dies. The king threw happiness to his world, and that place is full of devoted people. With the catastrophe that results, the city will perish. His extremely fond desire to see Rama instated as their apparent in the kingdom has not been accomplished. With that not accomplished, my father will be destroyed. When that time presents itself, those who are around my father will be successful in their objectives and will perform all the funeral rites for the Lord of the earth. The crossroads are beautiful and the large roads have been laid out well. There are mansions and palaces adorned with the best of quotations. Obstructions are created by chariots, horses, and elephants. There is the sounds of trumpets blaring. There are all the fortunate signs, and the place is populated by happy and well nurtured people, well nourished people. There are gardens for pleasure maintained by the communities. Everything in my father's capital is full of happiness. After completing the plague of truth and the period of exile in the forest faithfully, will we return to Ayodhya together, afflicted by grief? The great soul one lamented in this way. As the prince stood there, the night passed. For the sake of the subject, the son of the Indra among men spoke these true words out of affection for his senior. Overcome by the calamity, Guha released warm tears like an elephant suffering from fever and afflicted by pain. Next chapter 46. When night was over, the broad chested and immensely illustrious Rama spoke to Saumitri Lakshmana, who possessed all the auspicious qualities. The illustrious night has passed, and it is time for the sun to arise. Sun to rise, O sun, the extremely dark bird, the cuckoo is calling. The thousands of peacocks crying in the forest can be heard. O amiable one, we will cross the swift flowing Janvi, which heads towards the ocean. Standing in front of Rama, Saumitri, the extender of the delight of his friends, heard these brothers' words and summoned Guha and the Suta. Those two archers, the two Raghavas, guarded swords with ornamented handles around their loins, are prepared to swiftly head towards the Guha towards the Ganga with Sita. The Shuta, conversant with Dharma, humbly arrived before Rama. He joined his hands in salutation and asked, "What will I do?" He was addressed in these words, "Return. This is all that I required." Abandoning the vehicle, we will now proceed to the great forest on foot. On seeing that he had been thus instructed, the charioteer was distressed. Sumantra addressed the descendant of the Ishvaku lineage, the tiger among men. In these words, no man in the world has ever had to go through anything like this. Like an ordinary person, you will have to live in the forest with your brother and your wife. I do not think that there are any fruits from brahmacharya or self study or from mindfulness or uprightness, since this kind of a hardship has befallen you, O Raghava, O brave one, by residing in the forest with Vedehi and your brother. You will obtain ends obtained by one who has conquered the three worlds. O Rama, since you have been deceived, we have also been destroyed. Having come under the subjugation of the wicked Kaikeyi, we will have our share of misery. To the charioteer, Sumantra Rama was like his own soul. He spoke in this way and wept for a long time. Afflicted by grief, from a distance he looked on. When the weeping was over, the Suta touched water and purified himself. Rama repeatedly spoke these sweet words to him. For the lineage of the Ishvakus and well-wishers like you cannot be discerned. Act so that King Dasharatha does not grieve over me. The Lord of the earth is aged and his senses are afflicted by grief. He suffers from the burden of desire. That is the reason I am telling you this. Whatever the great soul Lord of the earth commands you to do in an attempt to bring pleasure to Kaikeyi, do what without any hesitation. Lord of men rule their kingdoms with this objective in mind, that whatever task their minds desire should be carried out without impediments. Or Sumantra, acts so that the great king does not suffer from sorrow, that his commands are in vain. The king is noble and aged and has conquered his senses. He faces a sorrow that he has not confronted earlier. For my sake, bow down before him and addressed him in these words, "O I, Lakshmana and Maithili means Sita, are not grieving that we have been dislodged from Ayodhya and have to reside in the forest. After 14 years have passed, we will quickly return and you will again see me, Lakshmana and Sita. O Sumantra, speak to the king and my mother in this way. Repeatedly tell Kaikeyi and the other queens this. Bow down before Kaushalya's feet and tell her I am well. Say this about Sita, me, and the noble Lakshmana. Tell the great king that he should swiftly summon Bharata. As the king wishes, once Bharata has arrived, let him be consecrated. Embash Bharata and get him consecrated as the heir apparent Let the grief and torment on our account not overcome you. Bharata should be told that without any distinction he should behave towards the mothers and as he would towards the king. Sumitra is no difference from Kaikeyi. In particular, this is also true of my mother, Queen Kaushalya. Sumitra was thus sent back by Rama and he was full of sorrow. Hearing all these words, he spoke affectionately to Kukutsya. If I speak fearlessly and without due courtesies, that is become of my affection. I am devoted to you, therefore you should pardon my misdemeanor in my words. How can I return to a city where you are not present? O son, without you I will suffer the separation from a son. The people lamented when they saw my chariot with Rama astride it. On seeing a chariot without Rama, the city will be shattered. On seeing the empty chariot, the city will be submerged in grief. It will be as if the charioteer alone is swept when a hero and all his soldiers have been slain in a battle. Even when you reside far away, you are always topmost in their minds. It is certain that today, thinking of you, the subjects have served. The citizens uttered cries of distress when you were exiled. On seeing my chariot, those cries will be multiplied and hundredfold. Can I tell the queen the following? I have conveyed your son to his maternal uncle's house. Do not unnecessarily sorrow over him. I cannot speak such words since they are false. How can I speak truthful words since they are exceedingly unpleasant? I have engaged these mounts to carry you and your relatives. How can I tell these excellent steeds to bear a chariot that doesn't have you? If you ask me to leave you here as soon as I am abandoned by you with the chariot, I will hurl myself into a fire. O Raghava, when you proceed to the forest, there and creatures that will cause obstruction in your austerities using this chariot, I will repulse them. It is on your account that I have obtained pleasure from driving this chariot. I hope that I will obtain happiness from residing in the forest with you. Show me your favors in the forest. I desire to remain near you. I wish to hear you are agreeable towards that you want me to remain near you, residing in the forest. I will bow down my head and serve you in every way. I am ready to give up Ayodhya and even the world of the gods. Without you, I am incapable of entering Ayodhya just as a person who performs evil deeds is incapable of entering the great Indra's capital. O brave one, residing in the forest, if these horses serve you, they will attain the supreme objective. My heart's desire is that once that period of residing in the forest is over, I will again convey you back to the city in this chariot. With you, the 14 years in the forest will pass like an instant. Without you, it will seem like 100 times longer. You are devoted to your servants, and I am a servant who has been like a son to you. I am a servant who has remained within the bonds of devotion. Therefore, you should not abandon one who has been thus established. Distressed, he repeatedly entered in many kinds of ways. Compassionate towards servants, Rama addressed Sumantra in this words: I know of your supreme devotion, and I know that you are devoted towards me. Your master listened to the reason why I want you to leave this place and proceeded to the city. On seeing you return to the city, my younger brother Kaki will be reassured that Rama has indeed left for the forest. The queen will be content that I have left for dwelling in the forest, she will not suspect the king, who is devoted to Dharma, of having uttered a falsehood. This is my first intention, that my younger mother should be prosperous and protected on an account of her son Bharata having obtained the kingdom to bring pleasure to me and the king. Go to the city with the chariot. As you have been instructed, respectively, tell them about what has transpired. Addressed the Sutta in these words, he repeatedly confronted him without any lassitude. Rama then addressed Guha in words that were full of reason. Please bring me the sap of a Nagrodha tree. Before proceeding further, I went to where matted hair. Guha quickly brought the sap for the prince, and Rama used it to make his and Lakshmana's hair matted. They wore garments made of bark and their hair was matted. Those two brothers, Rama and Lakshmana, were as resplendent as rishis. With Lakshmana, Rama adopted the path followed by a hermit. Ready for the boss, he addressed his aide Guha. O Guha, it has been held that a kingdom is extremely difficult to protect. Without any destruction, protect its army, treasury, forts, and inhabitants. The delight of the Ishvaku lineage. Look, his leap of Guha. Without any anxiety, he quickly left with his wife and with Lakshmana, who descendant of the Ishvaku lineage, saw the boat on the banks of the river. Desiring to cross the swift flowing Ganga, he told Lakshmana, O tiger woman, hold the boat steady so that the spirited Sita can climb onto it. You get into it later. Hearing his mother's command, which he never ignored, he made Mathili ascended. Mathili means Sita first and climbed onto it later. After this, Lakshmana's energetic elder brother himself climbed in. Guha, the lord of the Nishadas, urged his kin. Taking his leave of Sumantra, his forces, and Guha, Ram restored to the boat and instructed the boatman. The well-trained helmsmen of the boat were thus instructed and swiftly using oars forcefully conveyed it across the auspicious waters. On reaching the middle of the Bhagirathi, the unblemished Vedahi joined her hands in salutation and addressed the river. This is the son of the intelligent and great king Dasharatha, O Ganga, protected by you. He is observing what he has been commanded to, having spent a full 14 years in the desolate forest with his brother and me. He will return again, O goddess, O extremely fortunate one, O Ganga, happy on returning safely and prosperous with all my desire fulfilled. I will worship you, O goddess, with the three flows. You are seen in Brahma's world. You are also seen in this world as the wife of the Lord of the waters. O goddess, I bow down before you. O beautiful one, I praise you. When the tiger woman returns safely and gets the kingdom back to give you pleasure, I will give away 100,000 cows, food, and delicate garments to Brahmanas. The unblemished and accomplished Sita addressed Ganga in this way. They swiftly reached the southern bank. On reaching the bank, the bull among the descended from the boat with his brother and Vedahi, the scorcher of enemies, proceeded. The mighty armed one spoke to the one who extended Sumitra's joy. O Sumitri, advance in front and let Sita follow you. I will follow at the rear and protect you and Sita. From now on, Sita will experience the hardships of dwelling in the forest. As Rama swiftly reached to other bank of the Ganga, Sumantra steadily continued to glance at him, but Because of the great distance, grieving and distressed, he released tears. They slew four large animals there: Baraha, Risha, Pishata, and Maharuru. Hungry, they quickly ate the parts that could be eaten. They then went to a tree and took refuge there. Rama, best among those who caused delight, reached the tree and worshipped the western Sandhya. He spoke to Lakshmana. This is our first night away from an exhibition and without Sumantra. However, you should not be anxious from tonight. We must attentively remain awake at night, O Lakshmana. Sita's comfort and security depends on us, O Saumitri, O Lakshmana. Let us spend the nights in whatever way we can. Let us cover the ground with whatever we collect ourselves and lie down there. Though he was used to expensive beds, Rama lay down on the ground and addressed Saumitri in these auspicious words: O Lakshmana, it is certain that the great king is sleeping in misery. With her desire satisfied, Kaikeyi should be content on seeing that Bharata has arrived. Queen Kaikeyi, for the sake of the kingdom, will not take away the great king's life. He is aged and without a protector, and he has been separated from me, overcome by desire and under Kaikeyi's subjugation. What will he do? On seeing the hardship the king has suffered on account of the destruction in his senses, it is my view that Kama can be superior to Artha and Dharma, O Lakshmana, which man, however ignorant he is, will voluntarily, for the sake of a woman, abandon a son like me. Kaikeyi's son Bharata is happy with his wife. Like a supreme king, he will alone happily enjoy Kaushalya. He will alone be foremost in the kingdom. My father is aged and have restored to the forest. Like King Dasharatha, if a person follows Kama and abandons Artha and Dharma, he is swiftly reduced to such a state. O unbearable one, it seems to be that Kaikeyi arrived to bring about Dasharatha's end, my exile, and Bharata's obtaining of the kingdom. Perhaps Kaikeyi is now intoxicated by her good fortune and pride, and on my account is causing difficulties for Kaushalya and Saumitra. On my account, let not Queen Sumitra live in misery, O Lakshmana. Tomorrow, leave this place and go to Ayodhya. I will go to Dandaka with Sita alone. Kaushalya has no protector. Be her protector. Kaikeyi in inferior in conduct and act with enmity towards others. O one who knows about Dharma, hand my mother over to Bharata. O Saumitri, in another life, my mother must have separated women from their sons, and that is the reason this has now happened. Kaushalya has nourished me for a long time and reared me with difficulty. Shame on me when it is time to reap the fruits. She has been separated from me. O Saumitri, let no woman give birth to a son like me, who brings infinite sorrow to his mother. It is my view that the Sharika birds displays greater affection since it listened to the words. O Shuka, bite the feet of my enemy. O scourger of enemies, she is grieving, and his unfortunate, her son cannot help her. On my account, it is as if she is without a son, separated from me. My mother Kaushalya is limited in good fortune, immersed in an ocean of grief. She is lying down in misery and affliction. O Lakshmana, when I am enraged with my arrows, I can single-handedly save Ayodhya and even the entire earth. However, one must certainly not exhibit valor without reason. O unblemished one, O Lakshmana, I am terrified of adharma and the world hereafter. Therefore, I do not want myself to be consecrated now. In that desolate spot, Rama lamented piteously in many other ways. His face overflowing with tears, he sat silently. Rama lamented and was like a fire whose flames had gone out, or an ocean without any force. Lakshmana confronted him, O Rama, supreme among those who fight. With you having left, it is certain that the city of Ayodhya is without any radiance now, like the moon. When the night has passed, O Rama, it is not appropriate that you should be tormented in this way. O bull among men, you are making Sita and me also grievy. O Raghava, without you, Sita and I will not be alive for even an instant. Like fish taken out of water, O scorcher of enemies, without you, I do not wish to see our father, Satrughna or Sumitra, or even go to heaven now. Lakshmana's words were excellent, and after listening to all of them, Raghava's scorcher of enemies accepted the idea of following Dharma and living in the forest for an extremely long period of time. Next, chapter 48. Having spent the auspicious night under that large tree, when the sparkling sun arose, they left that spot. They entered that extremely large forest and headed for the region where Bhagirathi Ganga and Yamuna have a confluence. Those illustrious ones saw many beautiful countries and tracts of land that they had never seen before. Advancing comfortably, Rama saw many trees. When they had passed, he told Saumitri, O Saumitri, behold, smoke is rising from near Paryaga. I think this illustrious fire is a sign that the sage is close. We have certainly reached the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna. That is the reason the sound of water dashing against water can be heard. Many trees can be seen in Bharadwaja's hermitage. Those who make their living from the forest are splitting wood. When the sun was long and it was evening, the two archers carefully reached the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna and the sage's abode. When Rama reached the hermitage, the animals and birds were frightened. After spending a short while along the path, they reached Bharadwaja. On reaching the hermitage, those two brave ones with Sita following them wished to see the sage but held some distance away. The immensely illustrious one was offering Agnihotra oblations into the fire. Rama and Saumitri and Sita, Saumitri means Lakshmana, joined his hands in salutation and worshipped him. Lakshmana's elder brother introduced himself. O illustrious one, we are Rama and Lakshmana, Dasharatha's sons. This is my fortunate wife Vaidehi. Janaka's daughter, the unblemished one, has followed me to the desolate forest to perform austerities. When my father vanished me, my beloved younger brother Saumitri was firm in his vows that he would follow me. O illustrious one, commanded by our father, we have entered the forest to perform austerities. We will follow Dharma there. Living on roots and fruits, hearing the words of the intelligent prince, the one with Dharma in his soul offered him a cow, arghya, and water. The sage was seated with animals and birds around him. When Rama arrived, the sage honored and welcomed him. Having accepted these honors, Raghava seated himself and Bharadwaja addressed him in words that were full of dharma. O Kukutsa, it has indeed been a long time since you came here and saw you. I have heard about you being exiled without reason. This region of the confluence of the two great rivers is secluded. It is sacred and beautiful. Dwell here happily. Addressed by Bharadwaja in these words, Raghava, engaged in the welfare of everyone, replied in these auspicious words, O illustrious one, inhabitants of the city and the countryside live near this spot, wishing to see me and Videhi. Those people will come here. That is the reason the idea of living here does not appeal to me, O illustrious one. Think of some lonely and excellent hermitage, so that Bedehi Janaka's daughter, who deserve every kind of happiness, can find pleasure there. On hearing these auspicious words, the great sage Bharadwaja addressed Raghava in words that were full of meaning. O son, you can reside in a mountain that is 10 crores from this place. The spot is sacred, pleasant to see everywhere, and frequented by marshes. It is populated by gulangulas, apes, and bears. The place is like Gandamadana and is known by the name of Chitrakuta. As long as a man can see the summit of Chitrakuta, he performs auspicious deeds and the mind does not turn towards sin. Many rishis have spent hundreds of autumns there, performed austerities, and ascended to heaven to obtain the company of Kapalashriras. I think that this lonely spot will be a happy place for you to reside in, O Rama. Otherwise, for the duration of your abode in the forest, live here with me. Bharadwaja thus offered all the objects of desire for Rama, his beloved guest, with his wife and his brother. The one who knew about Dharma accepted them. When Rama approached the Maharshi in Prayaga, the auspicious night arrived and they conversed about wonderful accounts. When night was over and it was morning, the tiger among men approached Bharadwaja. He spoke to the sage, who blazed in his energy, O illustrious one, O one who is truthful in conduct, we have spent the night in your hermitage. Now grant us permission to find our abode. With the night over, Bharadwaja said, Go to Chitrakuta, which possesses plenty of honey, roots, and fruits, O Raghava, around the extremities of the forest there. You will see herds of elephants and herds of deer roaming around. The auspicious ground there resound with the cheerful notes of water, hens, and cuckoos. There are many kinds of crazy deer and elephants dwell there in an extremely beautiful hermitage. Next, chapter 49. When night was over, two princes, creatures of enemies, greeted the Maharshi and left for that mountain. When they left, the great sage glanced towards them like a father towards his sons and addressed them in these words: From here you will reach the Kalindi. Swift in his flow, prepared a raft and crossed the river Amshumati there. After that, approached the giant Nyagrodha tree enveloped in green. This dark green tree is surrounded by many trees and is frequented by Siddhyas. After having advanced hardly a crochet from that spot, you will see a blue grove, O Rama. It is full of beautiful parasha and badari trees and bamboo lanes over the Yamuna. This is the path towards Chitrakuta, and there are many occasions when I have gone along it. It is beautiful and mild and is free from forest conflagrations. After indicating the path, the Maharshi returned. When the sage returned, Rama told Lakshmana, O Saumitri, since the sage has shown us his compassion, we must have performed auspicious deeds. The two spirited tigers among men consulted each other, placing Sita ahead of them. They headed for the river Kalindi. Fastening timber together, they fashioned a large raft. Severing reeds, Lakshmana created a comfortable seat for Sita. His beloved was as unthinkable and was a trifle ashamed. Rama, Dasharatha's son, helped her climb onto the raft. Using the raft, they crossed the swift flowing Anshumati, garlanded by webs. They crossed the river Yamuna with many trees standing along the banks. Once they crossed the Yamuna, they abandoned the raft. They reached the dark blue Nyagroda enveloped in a cool and green canopy. Sita approached the tree. She joined her hands in salutation and said, "Let us again see Kaushalya and the illustrious Sumitra." After having proceeded hardly one krosa, the two brothers Rama and Lakshmana killed many deer and could be killed and ate in the group alongside the Yamuna. They roamed around in that auspicious forest full of herds and elephants and apes, and resounding with the cries of peacocks, they reached some flat refrain along the river, and without showing any sorrow, raided and abode. Next chapter 50. When the night was over, the descendant of the Raghu lineage greatly awoke Lakshmana. So, friends, Lakshman, 14 years, did not sleep. This is a fake story. This is not real. Okay. You can read it again. Raghu lineage gently awoke Lakshmana, who was sleeping without any interruptions. Okay, friends, here is the proof. O Saumitri, hear the beautiful sounds of the forest echo. O scourger of enemies, the time for our departure has arrived. His brother Lakshmana was asleep and was awakened at the right time because of the Enox's in exhaustion along the path. He was prone to laziness but abandoned the truth of sleep. Having awakened, all of them touched the secret waters of the river. They followed the path towards Chitrakuta as indicated by the Rishi. At the tiger right time, Rama, together with Saumitri, spoke these words to the lotus-eyed Sita, O Vaidehi, the Kimshuka trees are blazing in every direction. Behold, at the end of the winter, with their own blossoms, they have formed garlands. Behold, the flowering balatakas, balatakas, poked by men, they are bending down because of the fruit and leaves. We are capable of surviving here. O Lakshmana, behold, they are honeycombs in each tree, long as large as Drona. The bees collect honey from these. A chataka bird is crying and a peacock is crying back in response. This beautiful spot in the forest is strewn with flowers. Look at Mount Chitrakuta with a tall and imposing summit. It echoed with the sound of birds and heard of elephants wander around. On foot with Sita, they advanced and reached the beautiful Mount Chitrakuta. On reaching the mountain, frequently by hodres of many kinds of birds, we will dwell in the beautiful and peaceful spot. O Lakshmana, bring from an beautiful wood, O amiable one, construct a residence here. My mind finds dwell at the prospect of living here. Hearing his words, Saumitri collects many kinds of trees. The sculpture of enemies made a heart out of leaves. He was attentive in serving him, and he addressed him in these words: O Saumitri, O Lakshman, bring the meat of an antelope, and we will perform a sacrifice in this hut. The powerful Lakshmana slew a black antelope of the kind that could be killed. Saumitri flung this into the kindle fire. When he discerned that it was cooked and cleansed of all blood, Lakshmana addressed Raghava, Tiger among men, this has been cooked and is dark in all its limbs, so that is truly a black antelope, O one who is like a god. You are accomplished. Worship the gods now. Rama proceed the qualities of being conversant with techniques of chanting. He controlled himself and bathed to pacify all kinds of sin. Rama offered that supreme sacrifice. The abode was beautiful, covered with leaves of trees. It had been constructed well in a place that was free from vines. Together they entered it like the congregation of gods entering the assembly hall. Sudarna That supreme forest was full of many kinds of animals and birds. The trees had clumps of wonderful flowers. There were the sounds of predatory beasts, extremely happy and inconsequent in their senses. They wandered around there. They forgot any misery that was due to their having been banished from the city. Next chapter 51.